Epic 7 players, welcome back to another how to play video. My name is Pat, and in this video we'll be going over the pint-size powerhouse herself, Little Queen Charlotte. We'll be going over her stats, skills, some build recommendations, teammate suggestions, and answer that question you guys are probably all asking, which is, should you pull her given the things that are coming up in the future? So we'll attempt to answer all of those questions in this video. So without any more delay, let's get right to it. Unlike her RGB counterpart, which is a knight, Little Queen Charlotte is actually a warrior. She is of the light element and the Libra zodiac symbol, which means she will share a stat pool with characters such as Luna, Green Lilibet, and Holiday Euphine. Taking a quick look at the actual stats, she has 1,119 attack, 6,266 health, 109 speed, 627 defense, 15% critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, 5% dual attack chance, and no effectiveness or effect resistance. The biggest challenge when it comes to Little Queen Charlotte is actually this balanced stat pool. And when we get to the actual builds, you'll realize that she is going to end up needing quite a bit of attack damage and bulk in order for you to accomplish your goals. But before we can get to the builds, we actually have to first talk about the skills. So let's do that now. Little Queen Charlotte's S1 is Judgment. It has a 1.2x attack multiplier and grants her immunity for 1 turn. Compared to other S1s that are single target, it's actually one of the highest damaging ones in the game. And spamming it due to its immunity that it grants can lead to some free wins against certain heroes. Think of characters that use things such as Burn and Poison. Her second passive, A Queen's Dignity, is incredibly overloaded. It decreases the damage that she suffers from critical hits by 30% and makes it so that the rest of her team takes 10 to 15% less damage from critical hits as well, depending on Molagora. Additionally, when she takes a critical hit, she increases her combat readiness by 15%. For those of you keeping score at home, this is basically like having a plus 27 Adamant Shield and a plus 27 Durandal on the character, and that's before you even give her her own artifact. And also, again, that is also not counting the 30% less damage she takes from incoming critical hits. Really overloaded skill. Her signature ability, her S3, is the Will of Lemaire. It has a 1.5x attack multiplier and heals her for 30% of the damage dealt. Additionally, it penetrates 50% of the target's defense. And if that wasn't enough, if it hits a dark unit, it does an additional 30% damage. And since her buffs, it now also does splash damage to the other 3 characters on the enemy team. That splash damage is equal to 120% of Little Queen Charlotte's attack, and that also ignores 70% of each of the target's defense. LQC's Soulburn grants her an extra turn, which is really powerful against certain matchups. You can use the Soulburn to kill a character like Arbiter Vildred, and then use the extra turn to use Judgment to kill him in 1 hit. You could also use it to Soulburn S3, cleave through a team, and then use the S1 to potentially pick off something like a Spectre Tenebria. When it comes to Molagora usage, consider leveling the Will of Lemaire first, as this is Little Queen Charlotte's primary damage skill and probably the main reason that you are selecting her. Next up, A Queen's Dignity. Even if you intend to only use Little Queen Charlotte on Cleaves teams, I would still put some investment on this. The additional 5% reduced damage can help you survive and eke out some games here or there. And then finally, Judgment, simply because it is less impactful than the other 2 moves. As with all damage dealers, if you intend to seriously use this character quite a bit, I highly recommend plus 15ing the character. Okay, so let's talk about builds. The one that I see most people use on streams and also in Champion plus RTA lately is the Cleave build for Little Queen Charlotte. This is a build that tries to get her base attack sky high while also, sacrificing some crit damage in order to make sure that the 120% of her base attack splash damage to the enemy team is so high that it will end up popping all the squishies on the enemy team and give you a free win. So this is kind of an all-in on the S3 to make sure that it can do enough damage to win the game straight up outright. As for actual sets, you can play her on anything you want, although I believe Speed Set is the easiest, and most people play her either on Immunity, Crit, or possibly even Penetration. So whatever you have that can hit the base stat lines, or I should say the desired stat lines that we are looking for, then that is a-okay. When it comes to desired stats, we are looking for 4,800 or higher attack. I've seen it go as high as 5k, but yeah, 4,800 is what we're shooting for here. 1,200 defense, so we have a little bit of bulk, and 12k HP. 150 speed is enough, but if you want to go higher and you're capable of doing it, say you're on speed set, if you want to go as high as like 160, 170, that's fine. Just don't sacrifice the damage for that. As for critical hit chance, 81% critical hit chance is enough if you are playing Hellcutter as your artifact. The reason for this is if you are playing her, they obviously have a dark unit on the other team. So 81% base crit chance plus 4% from the Hellcutter stacks, as long as it is plus 30, gives you 85% crit chance minimum no matter what. And then on top of that, you get plus 15% from the type advantage, which equals 100% crit chance. You can go slightly lower depending on the speed tuning of your team. If you know your team is going to get 2 to 3 actions beforehand, you can subtract 4% from 81 and go to either 77 or 73. I would caution you to go for at least 81% though. It might be a bit overkill, but again, it depends entirely on you. 180% critical hit damage. This is to try to get a little bit more damage on the character you're actually S3ing, but the bulk of the splash damage comes from the higher attack. So this build is basically going to have lower single target S3 damage, but higher AoE S3 damage. That is the main distinguisher between this and the standard bruiser build, which we will talk about next. When it comes to right side gear, you want attack percentage neck, attack percentage ring, and attack percentage boots. The artifact that you want is Hellcutter, that we just talked about with the critical hit chance percentage. I think it is the best option because of the bonus crit chance that it gives you, as well as the bonus attack. Although if you have really good stats, I wouldn't fault you for trying to play something like Portrait of the Saviors or even something like Symbol of Unity. Next up is the standard bruiser build. This is the build I've been playing for quite some time on Little Queen Charlotte. It tries to have a little bit more bulk and a higher single target S3 damage at the cost of the splash damage from the S3. As for sets, you can play her on whatever you want. As you can see, I play her on destruction immunity, but you can play attack, speed, penetration, crit, whatever you want, as long as you hit the actual stat lines. When it comes to stat lines, 3,800 attack, 1,200 defense, 15k HP, 150 speed, 81% critical hit chance if you are playing her on Hellcutter. Otherwise, you might consider going higher. And again, if you do decide to play her on a different thing than Hellcutter, it's okay to not hit some of these stat lines and go a little bit lower. 290 crit damage. For the right side, we are going with the critical hit damage neck. This is the biggest thing that separates it from the meta build. The splash damage build is just going triple attack on the right side. This is critical hit damage for that, again, higher single target burst on the S3 as opposed to the increased splash damage. Attack percentage ring, attack percentage boots. And again, we are playing Hellcutter on the build here, although for the standard bruiser build, you can definitely go Sigurd Scythe to have a bit more sustain. In fact, having the Sigurd Scythe with the additional bulk, the additional HP, and the slightly higher defense will make for a very tanky bruiser that is very difficult to get off the board. So I could definitely see going for either a Hellcutter or Sigurd Scythe based on what you have and your own preferences. Finally, I just threw Uberius' Tooth in there because that is the traditional artifact that was popularized by Shotgun Shogun back in the day. I would only really play it if you're struggling with dodge units such as Remnant Violet. When it comes to picking teammates for Little Queen Charlotte, consider characters like General Purgus, Operator Sigret, Blue Rose, and Auxiliary Lots. Each of these characters provides her an attack buff that will make her S3 hit significantly harder, and they also have some way of either pushing her CR up or pushing back the enemy team. That allows her to take her turn faster / earlier and get in there and do that big damage. When it comes to characters you should probably not pick Little Queen Charlotte into, if your opponent has already drafted a very heavy control comp with things like Basar and Cerise and Fairy Tale Tenebria, it might not be the time to pick Little Queen Charlotte. Also, be on the lookout for Blue Kisei, as this is a character with her newest EE buff. She can basically punch through your immunity at the start of the fight since she's faster than you, and then reset that S3 cooldown. Additionally, if you somehow still survive and you get your S1 up for the immunity, the S1 on Kisei will make her do bonus damage to you. So it is a really bad matchup in my opinion. So you should avoid trying to pick Little Queen Charlotte into Blue Kisei. And if you do see her, consider banning her. So now I'm going to attempt to answer the question that I'm sure most free-to-play and light spenders are asking, which is, should you roll? And rather than give you a huge video essay, the short answer is yes. You should definitely roll for Little Queen Charlotte if you do not have her. On top of being good against the most played units in the game, such as Fallen Cecilia, Troublemaker Crozet, and Arbiter Vildred, she is also a relatively safe pick that you can choose in the first 3 picks or so of RTA and feel pretty comfortable about it. Being an anti-dark unit means that she is going to be relatively good against most of the best units in the entire game, and she has very few like truly hard counters. Off the top of my head, you know, there are things like if they're playing a crazy control comp, they might be able to strip you and stun lock you, or a character like Blue Kisei might be able to reset your cooldowns and make you feel pretty useless for the first couple of turns, or if they don't outright kill you. So she does have some answers, but for the most part, she's well-rounded enough with her passives and her damage that you can pick her into most situations and feel relatively comfortable if you don't know what to pick or what your opponent is playing. So that is a huge boon for her. The only real reason I feel like you should skip Little Queen Charlotte is one of 2 reasons. One, if you have a specific hero in mind that you're saving for, such as the ML Charles that they showed us, Straze, or maybe even Ilianav if she turns out to just be ML Senya, as myself and some others are thinking. So if you're looking for a very specific character that you're saving for, then yes, you can probably skip Little Queen Charlotte, although I probably would still try to get her anyway because of just how well-rounded she is and how good she is. And the other one is if you just desperately need a cleanser and you just somehow don't have DJ Basar, Destina, Ray, or Designer Lilibet, then you may want to consider skipping her to try to get Mediator Koeric. Although I think that Little Queen Charlotte is a better unit, and the others, such as Ray and Destina, are easy enough to obtain that you should probably still go for Charlotte anyway and try and get those as cleansers instead. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on Little Queen Charlotte. Again, definitely roll. If you're on the fence, trust me, I've had her since release. She is absolutely worth it. She is a fantastic unit. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about Little Queen Charlotte. If I forgot anything or you want to see me cover a specific character next, let me know down in the comments below. Leave me a like or subscribe as well if you could. That helps me out a ton here at this channel. I appreciate it so much. And if you have friends or guildmates who are blessed enough to own or pull a Little Queen Charlotte of their own, share this video with them so hopefully they can learn a thing or two. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.